Great represents the center with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. You have to forgive me because this is a very last minute podcast. I had no intentions of coming on today until I heard some news that I didn't want to hear, but is part of the natural course of life. So give me a minute to get myself together here. Find some music and try to get this to a manageable level. All right. So the reason, first of all, before they straight black pride to brother Elijah, before you got ripped off, and before they straight black pride to Sister Farnessa. Y'all can hear me now, right? I see the brother say no audio. That was me. Brother, you got ripped off. Can you contact Sister Cindy? Text her, let her know we on. So, the reason I'm so out of kilter today is I heard that you said the music is louder than I am. Hold on. All right, let's see what we can do about that. All right, how about now? The person y'all can blame for me coming on tonight, brother, you got ripped off. At approximately 3:30. Okay. Oh, I thought you had a number. You could text her. I'll text her. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. At approximately 3:30 this afternoon, I found out that Baba Kamau Kambon had transitioned to the ancestral realm. And so I called around for verification. Well, I didn't have to call around for verification because it was online. So I looked, saw that this was accurate information. So I called around and let people know. And then I talked to brother, you got ripped off. And as we were talking, we started talking about we just passed Dr. Ben's birthday, and today is Dr. Clarke's birthday. And then we just started. We thought about it. We were like, let's do a show on the ancestors. And since Baba Kamau has recently joined the ancestral realm, we would talk about him in the line of ancestor. So what I'm gonna do starting off anyway is talk about my personal experiences with Baba Kambon, the field. Then we're gonna have this article up about Dr. Ben. We'll read through that a little bit, and we're gonna look at some clips of Dr. excuse me. First, we're gonna look at some clips of Dr. Ben, then Dr. Clarke, and then Baba Kambon. And I meant to talk about AT, but I mean, I guess we'll just talk about that in passing because it is important. I just didn't have any clips for that because all of this was last minute. So everyone that has tuned in, has checked in, I see more people that appear to be online than are actually in the chat. I thank you all for coming through, and I hope more people will come through shortly. But the reality of the situation is, before to assure Goon always comes through. The reality of the situation is that, as I was talking to a sister today, we're all going to take that last ride. You know, we're all going to return to the realm of the ancestors. We're all going to, our physicals are going to return to the earth. But the measurement of our life is our impact on others. And so when I think about Dr. Ben and Dr. Clarke, who were giants, and they were near the end of their time when I first got knowledge. So I didn't get to see them in their prime, much to my dismay. But it's so interesting that the brother that got me into knowledge, one of the first people he got. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all, so y'all will understand how old I am. When the brother, this is how the information was given to me back then. The brother came over my house and he brought cassette tapes. We would put cassette tapes in the boombox and we would listen to people like Dr. Ben, Dr. Clarke, Minister Farrakhan, Dr. Khalid. We would listen to cassette tapes of these people. So that's how long ago this is. We're talking last century, okay? And Dr. Ben was talking about Christmas and talking about the African origin of Christianity, and he was talking about he would say that the worst smelling woman is better than the best smelling man, and he was talking about how backwards homosexuality was. And man, I mean, he was no holds barred. It was like, man, who is this guy? He's like, yo, he don't care at all. And the reason I call these people our warrior ancestors is because we have to understand at that time the idea that ancient Kemet was black, even though it's sitting right there in Africa, right? The idea that black people had built civilization and had high levels of mathematics and science and philosophy and were doing surgery in ancient time and all these things. All of the acceptance of these things was relatively new. And the thing about it is that they were still fighting within academia to get the greatness of black people in Africa and around the world recognized. And I mean, they were in intellectual battles with Europeans, and especially when I look back at it, this academia, it was a bunch of hats most of the time. And so, I mean, I was so young and so new that everything was just mind-blowing, like everything. You know what I'm saying? Because everything that I had learned, even though I was starting to doubt stuff, the reality that everything I had been taught was just false, and so much stuff had been covered up, and I mean it was all mind blowing. And so you look at these people as giants, and the interesting thing is that feeling doesn't change when you meet people. So the first time I remember seeing Baba Kambon and knowing who he was when he spoke at Howard University after the Bush Brown massacre. When the levees quote unquote broke in New Orleans. Where people said they heard sound like an explosion. I'm telling you what the people said that were there. I wasn't there. And when I saw him, this is what's funny. Everybody remembers Kanye West saying George Bush doesn't care about black people. And I know that's where a lot of millennial people became fans of Kanye. But yeah, I saw that. Okay, that was cool. Hearing Baba Kamau go on, and the CNN was showing it, and seeing him just dropping it, it was like, man, who is this? And it was so funny because if you watch the whole clip, if you can find it on YouTube now, it was a guy that came on after him. And I guess he was the moderator. He's like, it's gonna be hard to follow that. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, yo, I don't think he pretty much cleaned it up here and destroyed everything, and pretty much nothing else to say. And so that was the first time I saw Baba Kamau and knew who he was. And I was just like, wow, okay. That was, that was just unbelievable, And it's funny because I was in the midst of Mr. Negro Dome, but that lit a spark in me to, try to head back towards the light. And so later on, I would meet him in person. I think the first time I met Baba Kamau was I think either 2015 or 2016. I think 2016. And well, first of all, hold up. Let me stop. Is everyone here familiar with Dr. Kamau Kambon? If you are not, put an N in the chat, because I'm making the assumption, probably wrongly, that if you're listening to this, you're familiar with him. But if it's anybody that's listening that's not familiar with him, let me know so I can play the clip, and then maybe if you see the clip, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Speaking of playing the clips, I got a clip that I left out. I didn't load up. But so I finally got to meet him. And here's the thing. When you meet these giants, Brother Elijah? No? Okay. I'll show the clip and we'll see see if you're familiar with who he's in. When you meet these people, and I wish I had a picture to pull up. Here's what's this thing. When you meet these people, at least for me, these people are giants. Like Baba Kamau was a giant to me. And so when I met him, it was like meeting a celebrity. I was just humbled to be in his presence, right? Like, this is a brilliant black man. Like the way he thinks and conceptualizes about things when you hear him speak, it's just like, yo. And he said, this was deep. It's always been deep when he says this. He said that it was his observation of the world and how things were affecting the brothers around him, the people he grew up with, which was what sparked his consciousness. It wasn't hearing Malcolm or hearing, Dr. Clarke or whoever was around. He started to observe and see what was going on and figure something wasn't right, and then begin to alter his mind state. And then he came upon the scholars afterwards, which is deep, because that's not really how it normally works in my as far as my experiences in talking to people. So let me just play this clip of Baba Kambon, because I was supposed to have 2 clips, and then apparently I didn't load one of them. I don't know why. Y'all forgive me. Like I said, this was last minute, but for those who don't know, here's your short 2-minute introduction into this beautiful brother and his beautiful mind. So give me a second to pause the music. And then we can load up the clip.
What I want to say is that there are 2 things going on the planet now. One is that when white people came to us and said, we're going to free you, we're going to emancipate you from the plantation, what they did was extended the boundaries of the plantation and made it an international plantation. Made us think that we were free. In addition to that, they made every white person on earth a plantation master or owner. So there are 2 things in operation. We are in an international prison. It's not just in America, but everywhere we go, our people are dying. So the things that are in operation on this planet is that white people want to kill us. I want you to understand that. They want to kill you. And it has nothing to do with what the kind of degree you have, what kind of car you have, what kind of title you have, what fraternity you belong to, what religion you belong to. They want to kill you because that is part of their plan. There are any number of reasons why they want to do that, but I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure out why they want to kill us. But I know that's what they want to do. And they want to do it in many different ways. Psychological, economic, cultural, spiritual, social, and biological, chemical, electromagnetic. They want to kill you. But they also want to make money in the process of your death. Now, I saw a brother when I was coming in, he was smoking a cigarette. So now he's going to kill himself, but they're going to make money off of his death process. The other thing is that they want us to, if they don't kill us, like they tried to kill the brother by beating him up in New Orleans, if they don't kill us that way, or shooting like they killed the brother in Cincinnati, or like they killed Malice Green in Detroit, or like they killed Greenwich up in Pittsburgh, if they don't come out right and kill us straight, they want to get us to kill ourselves. Now, these are the only 2 operations on the planet.
Now you see, right? You see the type of analysis that the Bible would give. And he taught African studies and Black studies at, I believe, 2 different colleges. And so when I met him, like I said, I was so in awe. Greetings and straight Black pride to Sister Nina, because he was a larger than life figure to me. And I got this, he came to we brought him out to Everlasting Life Cafe about, I think that was 2019. And he spoke in February. And on one of my old phones, I do have some video and I have some pictures with him. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a student that day. I was literally writing, taking notes, and recording, at the same time as much as I could. And it he was just so brilliant. I'm talking about like a modern day Malcolm X brilliant. And he had studied our enemies and had started to have a system of breaking down and compartmentalizing their system and the different ways in which they control and destroy us and defeat us. And it was just, when you hear it, it's just like, you just like, man, you know what I'm saying? It really is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. And so when I heard about his transition, it was music. Oh, I don't even have, wow. Brother, you got ripped off. You didn't even tell me I don't even have my name up here. Y'all know I'm not on my square today. I don't even know how that's possible. Let's see. Wait a minute. But what was I saying? When I met him, why is it not really? Is this what we're doing? Like I said, I was a student. You almost feel like a little kid, sitting at the table of giants, and you're just there to just hope to soak up any crumb of knowledge. And one of the honors of my life was when I did the first time I did the first time I did the Africa versus Everybody lecture. I think that's the first time. He was there. He was there with his daughter. He was there with his daughter's sister Nataki. And he was just looking and he was checking it out. And it was almost like, all right, let me check this brother out. Let me see how serious he is. Let me see what type of knowledge he got. See, is he of any use to our people whatsoever? You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there. I'm just like, I'm doing my thing, but I'm noticing him noticing. And I don't even remember if he said anything afterwards, man. But every time I saw him after that, he would greet me warmly. And so when we lose ancestors like this, it's like what they say, a library burns down, a great tree falls. I mean, that's what's true. And I don't know why this really shook me, I just really Baba Kamau is just like one of my heroes, really. Like he talks about his life, and I implore you to just look up. You'll find a few things. Just look up some of his videos and speeches that are still on the internet. They're not as many as I thought. Apparently, they've been cleaning up YouTube and getting rid of a lot of information. But it saddened me greatly, because I just felt like he had so much to give. But as I was talking to somebody, realistically, I could say that his work is as complete as an African's work could be, because he taught our people, he gave us vital information, he gave us a warrior spirit, he produced children who are carrying on his legacy. His son Obadele is in Ghana doing work. He's married to an African sister. His daughter Nataki, who I've met before, is a very nice sister, has a very beautiful spirit. She's over there helping, doing her thing. And so he has done what few been able to do, which is, one, transition from being a Negro to being an African nationalist. Two, marry an African nationalist woman and form an African nationalist family. Three, have children carry on his legacy. Four, return to the continent and do the work there. Thus, his legacy is complete and secure. And to be honest, in this day and time, that's a high bar for anyone to reach. For one, to be able to do the work. Two, to be able to pass it on. And three, to be able to have your children continue your work. I mean, what more can you ask for? And so, if you go to bbtoomey.com, the website that they set up, I believe Obadele set it up. It probably, there's information there that'll let you know. They'll be having on January 4th, but I don't know the time. They will be having a celebration of life for Baba then, and that will be live streamed there. So anyone who, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with him, you can get to know him through that resource and through the internet. I can't really just speak to how much of a giant he was, but learning of his transition is what sparked this show. And it's just, in my time that I've had knowledge, we've lost so many great warriors and champions for our people. And I'm gonna just be honest. I mean, we're not really replacing the people we're losing, the quality of the people we're losing, the greatness of the people we're losing. We're not replacing them with the same quality and the same greatness of people. I'm just being completely honest. That's just an observation from being able to see people for 30 years or so, off and on in the movement, and meeting a lot of people and being able to see a lot of people and listen and learn and observe. And so when we lose a great person, man, it's it hurts, but at the same time, I understand from the African tradition that we are gaining an ancestor, and we're gaining someone who had more power than they had even here. I remember when Dr. Welsing, when she transitioned, it was like, it was just like, oh no, we don't have any sisters to replace Dr. Welsing with, you know what I'm saying? So the good part here is Obadele is well positioned to carry on the work of his father. So it's not as great of a loss. It's a great loss, but you have someone to carry on the tradition. So what I wanted to do is talk about a little bit about Dr. Ben and Dr. Clarke as well, and look at some clips from them. Who's not familiar with Dr. Ben and Dr. Clarke? Because I made the assumption everybody's familiar with Baba Kambon, and that was false. So I just want to make sure before I get started. Let's see. Everyone, no, I was going to say, if you're not familiar, put it in the chat. And it looks like everyone is familiar. So, Dr. Ben, let me pull up this article, because I actually didn't read this article. I was looking for articles, and here's the thing, man. They still mad at Dr. Ben. A New York Times article came up, and I was reading it, and I was like, this is some low-key slander and a mild hit piece and disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? So then I looked at what was that? Our Black Past, if I can enunciate. Let's check that out. This is, clear that up. It says, I don't know why they don't have the doctor here, but Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochanon, 1918 to 2015. It says Yosef Ben-Jochanon was an Afrocentric historian whose work is focused mainly on the Black presence in ancient Egypt, properly known as Kemet. I added that myself. He proved, he didn't contend, he proved in his writings that the pharaohs came out of the heart of Africa, and that the original Jews from Ethiopia and were Black Africans, and the white Jews adopted the faith and customs later. He has been accused by whites of this, especially hats, of distorting history, and since his work contradicts the prevailing view of Egyptian and African history, it is considered controversial by whites. I'm doing some editing on this as I go. Ben-Jochanon was born an only child to an Ethiopian father and an Afro-Puerto Rican Jewish mother in the Falasha community in Ethiopia. He attended schools in Brazil, Spain, Puerto Rico, and Cuba, and earned degrees in engineering and anthropology. He continued his education at the University of Havana, Cuba, where he earned a master's degree in architectural engineering. He later earned a doctorate degree in cultural anthropology from the same school, and finally he attended the University of Barcelona, where he earned another doctorate degree in Moorish history. Ben-Jochanon immigrated to the United States in the early 1940s. He was appointed chairman of the African Studies Committee at UNESCO headquarters in 1945. He served in that position until 1970. Ben-Jochanon began teaching Egyptology at Malcolm Keaton College in 1950, and then he taught at City College of New York. He was an adjunct professor at Cornell University from 1976 to 1987. He also taught at Columbia University, Al-Azhar University, and Rutgers. He led an archaeological dig in the Nubian region of Egypt in the 1990s, and also led an annual trip of Black people to Egypt. That annual trip has been continued by Baba Kamau, one of his premier students. Ben-Jochanon was a prolific writer, penning 49 books, such as Black Man of the Nile and African Origins of Western Religions. The subject of most of his books is ancient Nile Valley civilizations. He also wrote and co-wrote elementary and secondary texts in the 1960s. He was the chair of the publishing house Al-Kebalan Foundation and its subsidiary Al-Kebalan Books and Educational Materials Associates. He also donated his personal library of more than 35,000 volumes to the Nation of Islam in 2002. Dr. Ben-Jochanon transitioned in Harlem, New York on May 19, 2015 at the age of 96. So that is a short biography of Dr. Ben. And you can't really capture the spirit of Dr. Ben without hearing him. And so I have two clips that are short that I just wanted to play as a reminder to who Dr. Ben was. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play the first clip where he is going over the dynastic period of ancient Kemet. So let me check this out. I think this clip is about 3 minutes long.
From the first dynasty to the end of the 12th dynasty, you have nothing but African pharaohs. Pharaohs who came from what was it's called then Waset. The Greeks had come and changed that to Thebes. Today the Arabs call it Luxor. Then you have from different parts along the Nile and even in Thanis and so forth. In the 12th, the destruction of the 13th dynasty was by a foreign people called the Hyksos. People coming from Asia around the tributary, a little rivulet that connected to the Tigris and Euphrates. They also called themselves shepherd kings. They came with a leader by the name of Salatis. They penetrated Egypt from the coast, the Great Sea, which was now called the Mediterranean, all the way before in the north to a place called Abyss, where they established their capital. That's still in the delta. It is not even as far south as modern-day Cairo. They were repulsed in the 7th dynasty by southern pharaoh by the name, a southern king by the name of Amus, A-H-M-U-S-C. Amus was killed during that battle and was succeeded by his son Thutmose I. Thutmose I was replaced by his daughter, who took the throne from her little brother, who was supposed to be legally it, but she was a woman where he was a boy. She became the only woman king in the world. She gave herself the title Queen King, wore a beard, put on a false beard like a man, put on men's clothing. Her name was Makare Hatshepsut. Her son finished the pushing out of these people, these foreign people, otherwise the Hyksos, and by this time we are in the 18th dynastic period. Another group of people came in and ruled, and that was the Ethiopians and the Nubians. But before they came in to rule, there was still another foreign group. And that was a group of people called the Assyrians, have nothing to do with Syria. The leader of the Assyrian was a man called Ashurbanipal. Ashurbanipal took over in 714 before the Common Era, the 25th dynasty. They ruled and was pushed out by the Africans again, Nubian kings, and they remained into power until a third group of foreigners, also from Asia, came. That would be the Persians under the leadership of Cambyses, who was serving Darius I.
That is just a taste of the encyclopedic knowledge of Dr. Ben. Like, he would often do these lectures for hours. I remember talking to Baba Zulu, Dr. El Senzakulu Zulu, who has Ujima Shule School here in Washington, D.C., not too far from Howard University. And he said that Dr. Ben would come down and speak at his school on Friday night. and would literally be up there for 3 hours just going, just dropping history and dropping facts and speaking on current events and making jokes and you name it. And the people would just be there and laughing, and the place would be packed, and people just be having a good time. And it was anybody who, if you've never been to a all black event where the spirit of blackness permeates the crowd and permeates the people. If you're a black person, you never experienced that. I don't know what to say. I just feel sorry for you. You missed out on life. And so when I talked to Bob Zulu, he would tell those stories. He's like, Baba, you just should have been there. It's something to see. And I just remember listening to the tapes back then. It's just so wild to me that literally I had no clue that 20 minutes from where I live, maybe, on any random Friday night, I could have gone and listened to him as a 16, 17-year-old, that I could have heard Dr. Ben. But what are the things Dr. Ben did, and the reason we call him Dr. Clarke, Baba Kambon and others warrior scholars, is because when they were putting out this information, they were attacked vociferously, as I said before, by what we saw as white scholars, but were often small hats. And the reason becomes clear. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip it's from a longer video where Dr. Ben is debating a Jewish rabbi. This is the thing that's interesting. When you delve into ancient Kemetic history, right? When you delve into ancient Kemetic history, what happens is you begin to debunk a lot of biblical mythology. And when you begin to debunk a lot of biblical mythology, the claims, especially of the people who claim to be Jews now, get called into question. You see what I'm saying? So I believe in this clip, and I've watched so much stuff today, so stuff getting a little jumbled up, so forgive me. But I believe in this clip, he's talking about the story of Moses and where the story of Moses fits into ancient Kemetic history. So when black people would first start reading the Bible in America and giving, little portions to tell us basically to stay in line, we had no concept of comparing it with actual African history, ancient African history, Kemetic history, and not knowing that the Kemetic people were the type of people that write down everything. The idea of people documenting everything in the ancient world is something that no one, that people didn't really talk about, right? So the idea that you could literally, to this day, go to ancient Kemet and look on the walls and see that they've written the history down and say, at this time, this person was a ruler. At this time, this person was a ruler. And at this time, this person was a ruler. And that they have the Rosetta Stone. They're able to translate some of it. And they have the timeline where they're able to compare events in history and tell you approximately when things are. And as far as I know, Dr. Ben was the first one to say that they shortened the Kemetic history to try to fit it into the biblical history, because the origins of the ancient Kemet are older than what the Bible said the world is, right? So when I found that out, that was mind blowing, because it was like, because I don't hear anyone say it now. And again, I'm not a religious scholar, but there was a time very recently that the Bible, well, people took the Bible and they took all the begots, they put it in the standard English now, but there was a time where people were like, so and so lived this long and he begot so and so and this and that and blah blah blah. And you could count back and get a record of when people were supposed to exist in history, right? And then you could see that when God was supposed to create the planet and when Adam lived and this and this and that. And then the thing was that ancient Kemet was documented being older than allegedly Adam and Eve. So he's like, so what's really happening here, right? Because there was a time when for some people still is, but there was a time where the Bible was taken as a historical document. Well, we can dig up people and carbon date them, and then we can look at this book, and somebody is wrong. Either the book is wrong, or all this carbon dating and all this other stuff is wrong. But somebody is wrong, right? And Dr. Ben was one of the first people to say, hey, we got this history here written by these people, and you got this book here. And he was the first one I heard say, you got faith, but I got facts. You see what I'm saying? And so that was one of the things that he would say. And I mean, he just opened up so many people's minds. And he was so hated by the hats because, as we have discussed previously, their entire idea of who they are as a people is based in that concept of being the chosen people, right? And having having been giving the land that there's a war on as we speak right now, having been giving that land by God, right? So if someone comes with historical documentation that says, I don't know, this is kind of not really adding up, that person is going to be hated and attacked, especially at the time in academia, because academia was controlled largely by hats that we didn't know then, but now we know now. So I'm going to play this second clip of Dr. Ben where he is talking about the story of Moses and breaking that down.
Forget, he says that Abraham, he points to Judaism coming from Abraham. Then I said that the rabbi obviously have not read the 10 Commandments and their source. Moses is not until about 1346 before the Christian era, 49 years after the death of Amenhotep IV, otherwise known as Akhenaten. Every one of those 12 so-called commandments, and that Moses is supposed to have gotten at Mount Sinai. By the way, Mount Sinai is still in Egypt, in Africa, hasn't gone any place. Now, those 10 commandments weren't gotten by Moses. Because I'm Jewish don't mean that I have to follow the mythology. When you go in any of the major tombs in Egypt, you find those 10 commandments plus 32 more, otherwise referred to as the negative confession. Am I to believe that Moses was born in Mizraim, Egypt, about 1346 before the Christian era, went to school there, become a priest, at age 85 or around there, decided that somebody mistreated his people, and that in every school in Egypt, you had to recite the negative confession, 42 laws, of which they said, I have not killed man or woman, I have not stolen this, I have not, every one of the so-called 10 commandments is already stated that Moses didn't see it. I would like the rabbi to tell me, where does it show that Abraham taught any of this? I would like the rabbi to tell me, before circumcision in Egypt, where did the Jews have circumcision? They said that Abraham's circumcision is part of what made him Jewish. Then the rabbi must tell me, the worship of the golden calf, which they call the golden calf, isn't that the worship of Hathor, the goddess Hathor? We could go on down.
So that's just a taste of how Dr. Ben got down when he was debating Europeans. And, I recommend going and looking up those clips and just watching the whole thing, because you'll find many times that when he would debate these people, they had no really intelligent argument to refute what he was saying. Because again, these are religious scholars and these are not historians. They haven't gone into ancient Kemet and studied that. So he was coming with knowledge that was beyond their level of understanding, and giving them arguments that they couldn't refute. And a lot of times he was really reducing a lot of these people to babbling idiots. So Baba, Grandmaster Teacher Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochanon, we should thank him, because if it wasn't for him, they probably still be teaching, and maybe they still are, I don't know, but they probably still be teaching that Black people don't have any history and anything like that. But he's the one that really exposed why Europeans are determined to not recognize ancient Kemet as a Black civilization, because it gives lie to almost everything they say. And I cannot remember the European that it was. I think it was Champollion that went with Napoleon to ancient Kemet and was studying the Sphinx and the pyramids and some of the architecture and looking at some of the stuff on the walls. And he was like, oh my God, the people that we are enslaving and oppressing are the people that invented civilization, right? Like, it's a famous quote. I had it on one of my social media years ago. I think I might have posted it on Instagram years ago, but I remember seeing it in like maybe 2012 or something like that. It was a while ago. And so they know it's the truth. They know. They're white scholars and scientists and stuff that know, but they keep the information to this day hidden, because once you give a lie to that, then you have to admit that you have destroyed something great and destroyed a people who were great. And then you have to question if not the reason why the world is in the condition is because them have destroyed a great people. So that's Dr. Ben, So and also, as you got ripped off reminded me, today is a celebration of the Haitian Revolution. I didn't bring any clips up on the Haitian Revolution. I think we have all seen 1804. That was an excellent document. If you have not read the book, The Irritated Genie by Baba Jacob Carruthers, get it and read it. Yeah, that's all I can say. Get it and read it. That is the book that Brother Io got his name from, that the spirit of the Haitian Revolution. And we can barely measure the remarkable achievement of a group of enslaved people defeating multiple armies and forming a republic on the ashes of a slave colony. We can't even measure how great that is, right? It's the equivalent of, I'm trying to think what's the equivalent of it nowadays. it would be the equivalent of Black people in modern Haiti. Greetings, Brother Tony. It would be the equivalent of modern Brazil. The Black people in modern Brazil taking over, killing all the Europeans and the European derived, quote unquote Hispanics, and changing the entire government, and changing the economic system, and putting Black people in charge and redistributing the wealth of Brazil. Right. Like no one even thinks about that's possible, even though you got a whole bunch of people with African descendants there. I mean, they're like incredibly oppressed. Like we never talk about it because we don't speak Portuguese. We don't see what's going on very often. And so, but what Haiti achieved would be the equivalent of that, except that Haiti is much smaller than Brazil. But in the modern context, it would be the equivalent of that. When Haiti overthrew the Europeans and established a republic, it was earth-shattering. And white people around the world, like we never talk about, it's the reason for the Louisiana Purchase. Like 1/3 of America exists because of what happened in Haiti. And so today is the anniversary of the day. That was 1804. This is the 220th anniversary of the Haitian Revolution. And so there's a reason why Haiti is in the state is in today. I've done a show on it. I think I've done at least one, maybe two shows on Haiti and everything has gone on there. But there's a reason. The whites want revenge. They've never forgiven Black people in Haiti for gaining their freedom by the way they gained their freedom. And there were Black people here in America who heard about it and they were inspired by it, including Baba Nat Turner, our holy prophet. So, it's a monumental event. I don't think Black people in America talk about it enough. It had the ripple effect that eventually we would gain emancipation. And so we should thank our Haitian cousins and our Haitian ancestors. And one of the things they did, quiet as kept, is they forged a new identity based on an African identity. They took African spirituality and used it as a weapon. And I wasn't even thinking about it because, again, all of this was last minute. I needed to find Boukman Duddy's speech and read that speech. That's what I should have done today. I wasn't thinking about it. I just wanted to come on. Like I said, I was inspired hearing about Baba Kambon. And so that's literally the only reason why I came on tonight. I did not plan to come on tonight, right? But these events and these people and these giants and these gigantic events is necessary for us to tell our children and pass on this information and pass it on to the younger generations, and to step up in the breach when we lose one of our greats and try to continue on their work, because literally the reason that we have some form of African sanity, some form of Black love, some form of Black self-respect, some form of dignity, some form of identity, right? I don't know how many people saw the post I made where I said I just began to reread Identity. I also just began to reread I believe the book's called Nation Building by Baba Akoto. I think him and his wife co-wrote it. Baba Aj was a African nationalist and a African nationalist educator here in Washington D.C. Helped build the school, founded the school Nation House, and it was his book really that really gave me like the foundation to transition fully to an African mindset. It was another book. And I can't remember the name of the book, but I got the book here that just, and it's a book you can't even find now, but it was just so profound. And Baba has transitioned, I think, the last 5 years or so. But man, that book was so foundational in me becoming who I am and doing what I've been doing. So these brothers and sisters, Dr. Welsing, I 2015, the last time I went to see a lecture of hers at Howard, if I'm not mistaken. I may have the years mixed up. I mean, just we produce some magnificent Black people, and I think really, I don't even know. I just put it like this: I don't think we have to make no holiday about it, because I guess we still, Kwanzaa is technically still going on. It's about to end up, but we should definitely on this day remember those ancestors who have fought against all forms of enslavement, whether it's physical, psychological, economic, spiritual, any other forms of enslavement, and have fought to free us, because many times they really, really, we don't understand what they sacrificed in order to try to get us free. That's right, Sister Vanessa. March 18th. I mean, oh, you talking about her transition date? Yeah, I'm thinking about her birthday. Right. Yeah. And let me say this real quick. And those of you all who actually saw, I'm gonna never forget this. Bro, you got ripped off. Make sure, every time we get close to Dr. Welsing's transition time, I get angry and talk about this. Do y'all remember? And in fact, as we were honoring Dr. Welsing, that's actually the first time I spoke as a representative of the Straight Black Pride movement. Do y'all remember when she made her transition, how those Negroes and those homophiles, these flaming Fruit Loops, popped up out of nowhere on the internet and was saying all types of vile and disgusting things, and people like Mark Lamont Hill was co-signing that nonsense. Yeah, y'all know he's a Fruit Loop, right? I'm just say that Mark Lamont Hill's a Fruit Loop, just in case anybody didn't know. Everybody talking about Diddy and what's his name, TD Jakes, who, now that I looked at TD Jakes and I've observed his behavior, yeah, he's a homophile. Yeah, he's a homophile. I normally don't throw that out there without no evidence. Man, he's a homophile. First of all, you hanging around with Diddy at his parties. Yeah, you already like suspect to the core. But I saw him sitting up there, I guess it was his TV show, whatever. He had some homophile jumping around, gyrating like some type of, oh man. Anyway, it's like some type of, I don't even know. I can't say what I want to say. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to avoid getting banned. Like I think one of my community strikes comes up tomorrow. So trying not to get another one, because that's been one of the things. Like soon as I get one ends, I get another one. So yeah. But yeah, that Mark Lamont Hill thing, man, I'm never gonna let that go. And he be sitting up here talking and acting like he represent our people. Man, he represent Fruit Loops, man. He represent rainbows. He don't represent black people. You know, they've done their best to take the strong black man and put him and forget in the closet and threw us off the edge over a cliff at this point, and put these Fruit Loops in front of people. And then one of the things that happens is that when these Euros, these other people, they see like some of their cultural stuff or their mythos or some of their TV and stuff get destroyed, and they see some Fruit Loop running around in front of them that's having to have black skin. They get mad at us as if we want Fruit Loops running around representing black people. Brother, you got ripped off. Says you said you confronted him on Twitter. He act like it didn't happen. Man, talking about some show proof. He say, man, I swear, I hate a sucker. Nah, stand on business. You said you believed it then. You tweeted it or put it up then. Anyway, man, my bad. I was talking about the ancestors, and you get to sit around talking about suckers. You know what I'm saying? Look. Dr. Ben hated homophiles. Hated them. Right? So if you claim this is why these neo Pan-Africanists, these neo black nationalists, that's why you don't hear them talk about Dr. Ben. You don't hear them talk about Dr. Clarke. Dr. Clarke specifically said that stuff was European and we didn't have that stuff there. I was trying to find the lecture with that, but I just settled for the one where he speaks on us not having any friends. But you notice these new Negroes, man, who act like they are the arbiters of blackness and act like they are the discoverers of racism, white supremacy, and all knowledgeable about that. You notice that they don't refer to the ancestors. I'm never going to be one that's going to allow a new Negro to act like he invented something or the founder of something that our ancestors put into place or put into practice or built the institution upon before these people was even born. Sometime before I was even born. Like, I'm gonna just be completely honest. We sit around and we talk about, people talk about Dr. Umar and his school and this and this and that, and people talk as if that's the first black school we ever had. I don't understand it. We got African-centered schools all across the country that have done what he's trying to do and have done it for over 50 years. And we act like he's the originator of this concept. Dr. El Senzakulu Zulu is the originator of this. He built his school, started his school in 1968 here in Washington, D.C. These are facts. And Dr. Umar spoke in, I believe, 2015 at Baba Zulu's anniversary at Howard University. I was there. The house was packed. People paid $75, I think, somewhere around 65, something like that, to come in. You had the old school people who were supporting Baba Zulu for years, and then you had the new people who came to see Dr. Umar. And Dr. Umar spoke for however long he spoke for. I can't even remember. And the people that came to see Dr. Umar left. And the rest of us continued on with the celebration and had food and cake and enjoyed ourselves and took pictures and laughed. So my point being, give props to those originators who originated. Say, stop trying to pretend like you the inventor of the wheel. Right? There's nothing wrong with giving credit to the person or persons who inspired you to do the work now, if you are indeed doing the work. It's something that it irritates me, man, that people won't point to people and will act like they just popped up with an idea or the first to do something, when it's demonstrably false that that's the case. Be forwarded to our raw iso vital. So speaking of Dr. Clarke, I don't want to be on that much longer. I do want to get this clip of Dr. Clarke where he talks about this is from his I just call it Black People Have No Friends lecture. I can't remember the exact title, but to me this was his greatest lecture, and it's one of the ones towards the end. And it's one of those things that happens when you get older and you don't care anymore. There's no more holding or biting your tongue or anything like that. This is from that era of Dr. Clarke. So we're going to check out this short, I believe about 3-minute clip.
I was supposed to be here early. They gave me another assignment. They didn't pick me up to go to the assignment. I followed their instructions and waited at the hotel. I would love to be here when I can be more fully in depth on this subject, because there's a whole lot of illusions about Africa's relationship with other people in the world. There's a whole lot of illusion about our relationship to the religions in the world. And these belief systems that had its origin in Africa, all of them, and there is no exception, turned on African people. I said there is no exception. And there's one thing you have to get through your mind and keep it. Nothing that ever came from the European mind was meant to do anything but facilitate European domination of the world. And I said there's no exception. Everything that was brought into this continent, everything, every idea, every so-called religion was meant to dominate and to control. The Arabs had no illusions about it. The Europeans had no illusions about it. You were the ones with the illusions. And yet every element that went into the making of every major religion in the world started in Africa. Why is it that you are so naive? You let people redress something that you invented, sell it back to you, and enslave you through it. I'm saying that all organized present religions are male chauvinist murder cults. And I say there is no exception. Why I wanted to be here earlier, I wanted to deal with our relationship with the people of the world and the fact that we created peaceful nations that had no word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. No word for old people's home because no one ever threw them away, grandma and grandpa. No word for orphanages. We did all of this, and over half of human civilization was over before we knew that a European was in the world. Before he wore a shoe or lived in a house that had a window. Now, Africa has always and still is the prize for the whole world. We as a people have always been the world's richest people, culturally rich, mineral rich. We have always been the prize because we have always had and still have something that other people won't, think they can't do without, and don't care to pay for.
Now you see, for those who don't know or have forgot, why these people, why uplifting these people, why uplifting their memory, why tapping into their spirit is so important. Because I'm just be honest, I've been seeing some of these new people running around, and one of the main differences is being completely honest. These were black men who were married to black women, black men who reproduced and had black children, black families, and they loved black people, both black men and black women. And they stood on the principle of our essential nature as black people as being straight, our cultural, our natural cultural inclination, our the nature of who we are is for black men to love black women to love black men. That is our origin. That's why you find us out reproducing everybody. That's why Africa has the largest number of people on it, because we enjoy each other's company. You know what I'm saying? That's how people get produced, for those who are confused. And so people like Dr. Ben and Dr. Clarke kept us on that path, even as people were sneaking around them who had a different thought and different idea, but wouldn't express it until they were off the scene and no longer able to speak. And then they started bringing in these European ideas and try to repackage them as something African. Right? Some of these Negroes are still around. Right? Excuse me. Some respected people in African nationalist circles. You see them. We saw what this summer. Your brother Jeannie went to speak, and he was attacked by homophiles and the Black Lives Matter crew. Running around claiming they're Pan-Africanists, but when he spoke about protecting our people from the homophile assault of the European, then they wanted to attack him. Literally, physically wanted to attack him. So there's a clear delineation. I mean, recently something happened. And I don't even know all the details, but I see Dr. Umar, who I have disagreements with about certain things, but I have agreements with on other things. I see him getting attacked for telling black men, in essence, from what I saw, and if I have a misunderstanding of what happened, somebody inform me, for telling black men and telling black people that you should marry and reproduce with your own people. And somehow that's controversial. I don't know what's going on. And you got people who claim to be pro-black siding with the people who are against what Dr. Umar say. I don't know what's going on. I don't know when that became a controversial statement. When this desire amongst some of these Negroes to claim to be pro-black while laying up with Europeans and whatever else it's bizarre, man. To me, it's just crazy. Like, I miss the times when people would coon and go on about their business and move out to white world, and we never saw them again. And they didn't even pretend. I sometimes I see people talk about Byron Allen, his accomplishments, and him trying to buy something. He's trying to buy something. I can't remember what it was. And people are like, oh man, they tried to stop him from buying it because he's black. And I'm like, Byron Allen, he married a white woman so white that his children don't even look black. Like, they're not worried about this dude. They're not worried about him doing anything that's gonna change the minds of black people. Like these people, he's no threat. These are Negroes. They're slaves. When Umar said something about Vanessa, Kobe's wife, and people got mad. I mean, these are facts. Once Kobe decided to reproduce with a non-black woman, he decided to transfer his wealth to non-black people. These are just facts. I don't understand why this stuff is controversial. Brother, you got ripped off. Said these Mobutus have capitulated for Euro females. Zaddy dollars, Eurocentric standards, and self-hatred. 2024 will reveal who stands strong as we're watching the swamp be drained. Yeah, I think it's been revealing for a little while now. Sis Farnessa says, yes, as black people, we have to make a decision if we're going to advocate for traitors in our midst when things go left. Them being with Urugu, they made their choice. Yeah, my thing is, it's not even that these people are regular traitors. It's that these people are trying to pretend that they're pro-black. I seen people getting mad because people are attacking Sean King. I'm like, Sean King is a European who has been ripping off the black community and getting dollars from hats for a decade now. Like, where y'all been? Professor Griff say, go get a late pass. Like, to think that people think these people are comparative to our great warrior ancestors is just crazy to me. And when I think about it, y'all know recently I haven't really been focusing so much on our ancestors as on African and things like that. But I realized somebody's got to hold the standard. Somebody has to hold up the banner of true blackness, because there's not a lot of people doing it. It's not popular. It doesn't sell. It won't get you clicks or likes. It won't get you a lot of people subscribing. You fill in a niche that's getting smaller and smaller. But that doesn't make it any more truthful or any less truthful, or any less right and exact. The reality of the situation is that black people are in a situation where we are on the verge of being destroyed, especially black people in America. And at the same time, the Europeans are trying to figure out how to stop the rise of black people in Africa. That's why Bill Gates is there. That's what we talked about last week. So as I go on, because I still got another clip from Dr. Clarke to play from A Great Mighty Walk. As I think I said last time, but if I didn't, I'll say it again. The approximately first third of the interview that I did with Brother Genie, that those of y'all were here, that got taken down off of YouTube, that is on my OTWTube account. You go to otwtube.com, put in DC Radical 1, you'll find that lecture there. Later on this week, I'll probably put up the second part, and then the week after, probably put up the third part. So you can find that there. As I said before, the controversial stuff, the stuff that I can grab that they take down before they delete it, those things will go up there. Those things will go over there on my OTWTube account, because it is black owned, it's free speech. And so I don't have to worry about being attacked or them, deleting stuff, things like that there. One more thing. I forgot about this. So I got a call from Baba Zulu, and he met with his people because he he can make unilateral decisions, but you know, it's not supposed to. This is a process. They have a committee that helps run the school, and the committee has vetoed and overruled him as far as me using their facility to do the lecture in February. So as of now, unless I can come up with something else, it doesn't look like I'm going to do those lectures in February. I don't know. I'm out of ideas. I thought that was the perfect solution. Baba Zulu really wanted to do it. He thought it was a perfect solution. It's not going to stop me from continuing to support him. And so it appears this year that I will not be doing a Africa versus everybody lecture. The way things are looking now, more than likely, I will not be doing any lectures in DC. If somebody, wants me to come out to somewhere else and they can guarantee a certain amount of people, I'll do that. But it doesn't look like I'll be doing anything in DC in the near future, because finding a venue and finding an audience says nobody wants to be African anymore. I don't know. It's not, the spirit of DC, what it was and what it is now, has been very different since the scamdemic. Since Vanessa says we still have black folk attacking other black people for saying biracials aren't black, which they aren't. They don't want to acknowledge that this is genocide against black people. Well, here's the thing. First of all, biracials aren't black; they're biracial, and oftentimes, because of our situation here, they side with the parent, from, especially if they're mixed with European. Oftentimes they side with the European parent. I measure biracials by who they reproduce with, right? So if you take somebody like Patrick Mahomes, right? Patrick Mahomes' father, Patrick Mahomes is an NFL player, the quarterback, kind of like the face of the league right now. His father is black. I've seen his father's black. I'm like, okay. His mother is a European. Patrick Mahomes, you can just tell. You can look at him. He just looks biracial. You can tell. No one questions that. He looks biracial to the point that they don't even call him a black quarterback. I don't know if he told people not to call him a black quarterback. I don't know if his father said it, whatever. I don't know. But they don't even call him a black quarterback, right? When they had those discussions. He married a European female, like very European, like there's no question. Based on that, to me, same as a white man. If you take the same person, like I've known people, interestingly enough, all the ones I know that married black and reproduced black and tried to get black into the race were women. All the ones that I've known that have done the opposite have been men. I think that's just coincidence. I don't know. I don't know why that is. That's just been my personal experience. But that's how I measure them, by who they reproduce with, as far as what side they're on. But like you said, they're not. They are biracial. We aren't in the 1800s where people are, where we have a lot of involuntary miscegenation, I'll say. I'm not saying that we don't, but most of the miscegenation that we have is voluntary. And people who make that voluntary move, that's who you sided with. But brother, you got ripped off. Says SBPM has been whitelisted. Yeah, I mean, look, brother, I could go into detail about. I don't want to talk about people. As far as stuff we face with institutions here in DC, I'm talking about going way back because of our stance against homosexuality. That's not the case here with Baba Zulu. It's a different situation. But like I said, he was with it, and it kind of okayed it without telling everybody, which is kind of so you know, it is what it is. But I just want to let y'all know that because I didn't want y'all, 2 weeks or a month from now and be like, hey, you haven't even put our flyer out for that event. And you're just like, hey, so that's that. But yeah, let me get back to Dr. Clarke. This last clip is from A Great and Mighty Walk. If you haven't seen that documentary, it is up on YouTube. I highly recommend seeing it. It goes into Dr. Clarke's background, and I believe Wesley Snipes is the he does the voiceover, does the narration. That's the word I'm looking for. Does the narration, and I believe he funded it, if I'm not mistaken. So, shout out to brother Wesley Snipes for doing that. He's done some extremely questionable things in Hollywood, but he also has been attacked for some other stuff he's done. So he's given us Blade, first black superhero movie, and he gave us Dr. Clarke's documentary. So we put those in the good column for him, and so we're gonna watch this clip from Great Mighty Walk.
Communal societies, who each got according to his needs, were not copied from Europe because they existed before there was a Europe. In these societies, based on the concept of the family and the community, everyone in the society had a responsibility. In these societies, there was no word for jail because no one had ever gone to one. No word for orphanage because no one had ever thrown away any children. No word for old people's home because no one had ever thrown away grandma and grandpa. And while I had some admiration for the conclusion of Karl Marx, I dare to say he was a political opportunist and a Johnny-come-lately because he was rehashing something that was in the world before the first European wore a shoe or lived in a house that had a window. During my early years in Harlem in the 30s, my writing consisted mainly of poetry, short stories, and little essays on aspects of history. And the Harlem Renaissance writers, of course, influenced me. I knew Claude McKay. I knew Langston Hughes. I knew Richard Wright before he had published Native Son. I knew Wallace Thurman, Nellie Larson, Jesse Fawcett. I found a Pan-Africanist consciousness in a Langston Hughes and to some degree in a Claude McKay. But the rest of them were rather parochial. Finally, I got to meet Arthur Schomburg.
Arthur Schomburg, mentor to 2 generations of African-American scholars. The legacy of this Puerto Rican-born historian is the world's definitive institution of its kind, Harlem's Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture.
I went down the 135th Street Library, and he was on the 3rd floor, and I asked, very humbly, asked the librarian, do you know anybody who would give me a letter to see Arthur Schomburg? And she said very sharply, and impatiently, because she was short of help, you just have to walk up 3 flights. I walked up 3 flights, and there Arthur Schomburg was holding down the desk, being 18 and rash. I wanted to know the history of African people of the world, henceforth, right now, within the hour, his lunch hour, all of it. He said, sit down, son. what you're calling African history and Negro history are the missing pages of world history. Then he said, son, go study the history of your masters. Go study the history of the people who enslaved you and find out why they found it a necessity to remove an entire people from the respectful commentary of the history of the world.
Baba Clarke took that instruction to heart and went and dug up their history and our history and taught it to us for the rest of his life. And so I, for one, am eternally grateful for Dr. John Henrik Clarke. His book, Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, is a must read. It's, it's hard to measure now, but like that's one of the books, and that's the era where the attack on the mythology of Christopher Columbus as this heroic figure came into play, and where Dr. Clarke points to that as a turning point, which led to the destruction of Black people and our sojourn here in the Western Hemisphere. So, that Dr. Clarke has one of the monumental works that he had. He has, it's just so much that he did. He's one of the people that really pointed us in the direction of Garvey and helped us to understand how great and monumental Garvey was. And also he was one of the people he was one of Malcolm X's advisors, and he greatly loved Malcolm X and greatly came to despise Minister Farrakhan to the point where there were threats on his life, but he was an elder, so he didn't care. But that's just a reality of the situation that was going on in the 90s. But he knew Malcolm X in the 50s and 60s. They would discuss African history and ancient African cultures and civilizations. And they would debate ideas and ideologies and philosophies. And so, Dr. Clarke was a great scholar, a giant of a mind. It's so interesting because he was such a giant. And he said, one of the people he pointed to was Amos Wilson. He said a mind like Amos Wilson comes around, I believe he said, once every generation. So these giants, man, who have done this work, as I said before, we have to continue on their legacy and point our people in a proper direction so that those who want to continue to have some type of sanity and help build some type of sovereignty and to help to stave off the onslaught of destruction, which we are currently facing, the onslaught of genocide, with not only old techniques, but new techniques of AI and robots and things like that we're going to face in the future. Things that are so threatening that I was looking the other day at a couple of European philosophers and scientists and whatnot, and they were talking about the threats of AI. These are not Black people, but they recognize the threat. And before I got the news that I got, I was really planning to really do a great reset, lecture or Agenda 2030 lecture. I may just do bits and pieces of that in future shows. But let me remind y'all see it down at the bottom. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, and Twitter at dc_radical_one. OTW2, as I said before, is DC Radical 1. And for those of you who would like to donate via Cash App, please donate at $ DC Radical 1. And also, brother, you got ripped off. If you could put your Cash App in the chat, brother, you got ripped off. He has some family issues they had to take care of, and he has, as a consequence of that, he has some medical expenses that he has. So, brother, you can kindly put your Cash App in the chat so people can donate to help offset that. I'll be completely honest. When I asked you all to help me offset the cost of the show, brother, you got ripped off has been carrying the load of that for maybe all of last year. I've got kind of forgot for the most part. So those of y'all who heard the last show or whichever show that was where I mentioned it, he's not going to be able to carry the load like that. So someone else will have to step up. As I said, when I made the deal, I give y'all at least 4 pieces of content per month. And if I don't give you all the 4 pieces of content per month, then there's no need for you all to help me offset the cost of the show. So this wasn't planned at all, but I just felt it was necessary to really do this show to honor Baba Kambon and to honor those and like him who have come before us, who have literally worked their entire life for the liberation of African people. And we have a tendency to take these people, as our enemies have taught us to do, because our enemies take and try to throw them in the dustbin of history. And I'm just not going to allow that to happen. If I'm the last person to mention them, then one of you all just come behind me when I fall and pick up the banner of blackness and carry it forward. Because, and let me put that on the screen, well, brother. So if you all can help the brother, I greatly appreciate it. It's $BLKMAGUS. This brother is one of the most sincere workers for our race that I know, Brother Black Magus. He has driven to our events from literally a million miles away. I'm not going to lie. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about, like, I don't even know how many states he crosses. I'll just put it like this. He's 2 time zones away from us and drives the way. And Daniil Davis says, I appreciate the work that you put out for our education. I thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just trying to do what I was tasked to do, really, not as a young man, barely a young man, sitting in the back row of, you had the $ up for that, right, bro? That Cash App. You can put it up again. This is Black Magus Cash App, $ BLKMAGUS, and that's Cash App. But sitting in the back rows of some of those lectures and wondering if I was even worthy to be in the venue of many of those places. Like, I'm being completely honest. As a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old, being in these places and these venues and seeing these great men, Dr. Khalid, Abdul Muhammad, and Steve Coakley, and people like that, and people who are giants to me, still are. They'll always be giants to me. And seeing them do their work, and sometimes seeing them on TV debate Europeans and defend the greatness of Black people before the world, and to challenge the myths and lies of our enemies as the enemy has worked tirelessly to destroy our image and to claim that we've never done anything and that we aren't anything, to the point now that they pay our people to tell us that we're nothing daily. And that those people worked and sacrificed and gave their life to change that image and to change our minds and to change our spirits and to get us to reclaim our African greatness. And now you got Negroes running around claiming that the slave trade didn't happen. These people are exonerating our enemies of the greatest crime ever committed against any people anywhere ever on the history of planet Earth, because they hate themselves that much and they hate their ancestors that much that they would rather exonerate our enemies of committing the greatest atrocity in human history, and would rather be running around calling themselves N-words than to be African. When if it wasn't for Africa, you wouldn't even be able to have a modern society, as we talked about last week. I wouldn't be talking to you on this computer. You wouldn't be listening on your computer or your phone or your TV. There wouldn't even be, we saw last week, you need the resources of Africa to make fighter planes, nuclear bombs, high-level electronic equipment, satellites. All of that you need Africa for. And instead of these brain-dead Negroes wanting to claim a piece of the legacy of the greatest people on earth and the greatest, most fertile, most rich, most beautiful land on planet Earth, they'd rather stay here and be slaves. And what really gets my goat is that people come out and support these Negroes, some of these Negroes in droves, while those who are really doing the work can barely even draw a small crowd. But I've seen it before. If you watch some of the videos with with Dr. Clarke and Amos Wilson, some of these people, they wasn't selling out large arenas at the time. In some ways, some of them have gotten more appreciation posthumously than at certain times of their life, especially, toward the end for some of them. Amos Wilson never got the recognition that he deserved in his lifetime, in my humble opinion. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that has produced a greater work as his blueprint for Black power. It's to the point that people can't even digest that in order to even build upon the legacy of it. And yet we reject these people to try to reinvent the wheel with something that's lesser than, instead of taking that which is there and building upon it. I don't understand it. But that's just the state we're in. I told a brother on Instagram one time that we're in a counter-revolutionary time period. I have to remind myself of that. but it's frustrating because I understand that the hats are counting down to 2030 to implement their entire agenda. And in which case, if they implement their entire agenda, it's going to be infinitely more difficult for anybody to get free and for most people to survive. And so that's why I do what I do. So with that, brothers and sisters, that's pretty much all I have. I thank you all for listening. Those who are subscribed, thank you all for subscribing. Don't forget to like this, post it, share it, let people know about the show. If you can support via Cash App, it's $ DC Radical 1. If you, as I said before, if you're a business owner or you own a service or anything, you would like to sponsor a show or sponsor content for a month, you can email me at dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. If you're following me on Instagram, you can DM me on Instagram as well. And, we can discuss prices and what you may need as far as promotion. If it's via just YouTube or you like the package of all be promoted all across our social media, which crosses over to OTW Tube and On the Wake Up Radio as well, which is a largely untapped market for people. So with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for subscribing. I thank you all for your support. And thank you all because we keep getting new subscribers trickling in every day. And I'm very proud of that and very happy about that. So let's just keep that up. And who knows, we're marching solidly towards being able to at least apply for monetization. Notice what I said. And the motto is still get monetized or get deleted trying. So with that, brothers and sisters, I say a BB for Hodie and straight black pride. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $ DC Radical 1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for Hodie and straight black pride.